Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is Daniel. I am the owner and founder of the Raminfard School of Arts. And today we're going to be working on a portrait sketch, specifically the side of the head. And I feel like a lot of people are very turned off by the profile because it can be difficult to draw. But I'm going to show you my way of drawing it, encompassing a lot of the things that I've already taught in previous videos. My focus isn't so much on getting a likeness, though I got very close. It's more about just practice. I can't stress this enough. You know, a lot of people feel like drawing the head is hard, and it is, but it only gets easier with practice. So I can't stress that. Like I said, I just can't stress it enough. I think that if you're anything like me, drawing is not an easy task. I don't have naturally good drawing skills. I truly have to practice at it. So just because you're an artist doesn't mean that you have these natural gifts. It's something that really needs to be developed. In fact, I heard a quote recently from Michelangelo that said something to the effect of, if people knew how hard I worked at my craft, they wouldn't be nearly as amazed. And I completely understand what he's saying. It's a ton of work, but at the same time, there's amazing rewards. I mean, just the satisfaction of being able to draw something that you thought you couldn't. It's definitely worth it. So I'm going to walk you through step by step how I draw this. I'm hoping that this will help you and, more importantly, inspire you to draw. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. And please like and subscribe and share it with your friends. I'm hoping that this channel will grow so that I can do more and more videos. And I look forward to hearing your feedback. Okay, so drawing the profile. This whole thing actually took me about 25 minutes, but I sped it up down to about 12 minutes, 12 and a half minutes, because I really just don't think I have that much to share with you guys. However, I'm going to walk you through my thinking process step by step. This is intended as a sketch. It's not a formal drawing. But what you'll notice is a lot of the stuff that I've already talked about in my previous videos are now being demonstrated here. And this is how I naturally draw. This is if no one was looking, if I'm just trying to get a quick sketch of somebody. I don't want to spend hours and hours and hours on a drawing. I'm just going to focus on some basic information and try to jot that down. And it's basically a way of an artist taking notes. So I can't stress how important this is. This is basically my practice. And what I'm doing is structuring. This should be really familiar to you. If it's not, you should go back to some of my previous videos. Structure always comes first. And as I've mentioned in previous videos, it's so tempting to start off with the details, but that's exactly what screws us up. We need to slow down, get into our placement, our sizing, our structuring, our proportions. We need to focus on those big things first, and then move into some of the smaller things. So if you notice, I laid down the largest mass first, which was the cranial mass, then the jaw. Then I got my proportions out. I gave myself a rough idea of where the ear is, and then the placement of the hair. And from there, that's when I actually have enough context to get into the features of the face. So I am going into it. I'm putting in a little bit of detail just to kind of show what's happening. But that's about it. I actually ran out of space on my paper, so it's not like the picture is cut off. I just simply didn't have enough space between the photo and the paper that I'm using. Let's take a minute to just talk about what the paper is that I'm actually using. This is rough newsprint, and I'm using a 9B pencil. It's a Prisma pencil, and I do like that pencil a lot for just quick sketching. It allowed me to get both light and dark lines down, and it works great with rough newsprint. Again, I'm going from shape to shape, and notice how my focus is less on detail and more on form. I can't stress that enough. You really want to get your form right. As I'm actually watching this and dubbing over the video, I am noticing that my nose is slightly long, which is okay. You know, I'm just trying to get some rough concepts down.
If this was a formal drawing, one in which I would spend hours on, I would probably make that adjustment. But in this case, it's just getting the rough concepts down. This is actually the first time that I'm approaching this particular head, so I'm taking it step by step. And notice that I'm looking for where things live, meaning before I ever draw the eye, I draw everything around it. Before I ever draw the interior of the nose, I draw everything around it. And before I ever draw the mouth, I draw the round form that the mouth sits on, as well as the chin. If you're wondering what the division of the mouth looks like, it's thirds. It's a third up from the chin and 2/3 from the chin all the way up to the nose. And that's been discussed in previous videos. So now I've got the eye placed in. It's just a rough concept of the values as well, because that helps me see the shape. So the only reason why I'm actually shading right now is just so that I can see the shape a little better. And I'm moving pretty quickly. Again, this was only a 25-minute drawing. I'm just trying to jot down some ideas here. So this is how artists do this. This is how they think. You know, they're jotting down thoughts. They're jotting down concepts. And you'll see this a lot in the sketch work of previous artists, such as Van Gogh, such as Cézanne, such as Zorn, John Singer Sargent, who's one of my personal favorites. The list goes on and on. Drawing is the foundation of painting. And it will always be the foundation of painting, because all painting is drawing with a brush. I can't stress that concept enough. Painting is drawing with a brush. So if you can't draw it, you can't paint it. That's been my experience in the 20 or so years I've been teaching. So I'm coming back in here into the neck. I'm looking carefully at placement. I'm going to cut it off right above the clavicle, because it's just too much information there and it's a little distracting. There's a beautiful skinny long neck here, but there's no reason for me to draw more of it since the focus is on the face. So I'm at a place where I'm going to clean up the features a bit, and then once that's cleaned up, I'm going to move over into the ear. The reason is that I don't want for only one part of the drawing to get resolved and get finished. I want it to happen cohesively, meaning that I'm moving from one important part to another. So I've got the eye in, I'm bringing in my shading, I'm cleaning up the details here, giving it just a little bit more value, a little bit more tone, getting the eyebrow in and getting that cleaned up. And then from there, sculpting the brow using the eraser, which is very important. And then from there, I'm going to jump into the ear. And I tend not to put too much detail into the ear, because it's far enough away from the face where if you start to put in a lot of detail into the ear, then that becomes kind of the main subject. And it's not. Everybody's always going to look at the face unless that's covered in some way. So you want to make sure that the ear is secondary, meaning that you've got something that looks realistic but isn't fully detailed, because if it is, you're going to run into some trouble. I'm trying to carve out some of the planes of the face here and adding in a little bit of tone, softening it up, and giving myself an indication of just where the darks and lights actually are. One of the things that you'll notice is the darker that I make those lips or the eyes, the lighter other parts become. And that's because our eyes adjust based on what is closest to the object and just how dark those things are. So I don't really have to work so hard to have my brights shine. It's really more of a matter of getting my darks to render well so that the lighter parts of the drawing show. So it's via negativa. The darker I make certain parts around the face, the lighter the highlights will pop. And this is also true in painting just as much as it is in drawing. So as I shade, I'm trying to hatch and cross hatch. However, I don't want this to be too harsh of a drawing. So I am going to use my finger to start to blend some of that. Erasers are great for additional softening, so I do recommend that as well. Minor adjustment up there on the brow, it's actually a little bit flatter. But yeah, you'll see me start to kind of etch in everything, and you know, some of my lines will go in one direction and other lines will go in a different direction. And as you can see, that line going across the chin, I really want that to read relatively soft, so I'm going to soften that using both my finger and different directions of the pencil and the way that I'm shading it. And then I'm going to pull out my highlights using that eraser. Now, that's one of the most underused tools in drawing. The eraser is a fantastic tool. It's not just for correcting mistakes. It can be used for highlights. It could be used for cleaning parts up to make them a little brighter, and to soften some lines. So I highly encourage anybody to play with your eraser more often than you think in your drawing. You'll probably see an improvement. Moving on with the drawing, I'm starting to clean up around the ear. I'm going to get a little bit of shading behind the ear as well. So I definitely want to get that in. And what that does is it's just suggesting that it's lifted off from the surface of the neck behind it. And I'll probably leave it right there. I don't want to do too much more with the ear because, again, I'm not trying to distract you away from the rest of the image. The neck. Getting into the neck. So I am actually going to darken the neck up quite a bit. And the reason is because that's not my focus. I am not looking to pull your eye into this bottom part of the neck. As beautiful as the features of the neck are, this is not a full body drawing. So my focus is just going to be on the essential things that I'm seeing. And those are the things that I see when I squint. So I highly recommend squinting, and you'll see what parts are darkest, what parts are lightest, and what parts are most essential. And then I'm going to move over to the other side of the neck and darken that as well, because I want the focus to be on the face. So it's better for the face to be slightly lighter and the neck to be just to fall into a little bit more shadow than you would normally anticipate. As I continue to shade, I'm going to bring in that shadow on the other side of the neck, and then watch as I use an eraser to pull out a nice clean highlight. And again, this reiterates my point about using the eraser to emphasize direction of lighting and so on and so forth. If you look, the line at the very bottom actually disappears, and I want that. I want that thinness of the line where it just disappears, so that it reinforces the idea of the roundness and light on that neck. Now what I'm doing is I'm fine-tuning the hair and pretty much finishing up my drawing. I'll probably bring in a much smaller eraser to fine-tune and get rid of some of the unwanted lines in here, and then I will use a duster to remove anything. So there's my tiny little eraser. You can buy one of these. This is the Como eraser, and it's a really good one. And I think it's 0.5. It's really small, so it really allows me to dig into fine-tuning the drawing and cleaning up edges and stuff like that. And then I'm going to use a brush to wipe away everything, and this is a watercolor brush. So that should pop up in a second here. And I like using that brush because it doesn't damage the drawing and it doesn't smudge. And that, you know, that's about it. I could spend all day refining this and adjusting it, but it's unnecessary. This is just practice for me. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to seeing what you have to say in the comments.